Musings of Reluctant Libtard, Episode 1. People will cease to commit atrocities only when they cease to believe absurdities. That's a quote from Voltaire. This series isn't just about politics. It's about navigating relationships in a world where people see the same events and come to entirely different conclusions. It's about frustration, exhaustion, and ultimately finding a way to keep loving people despite the divides between us. Some of what follows was never meant for public consumption. These words, some written in anger, some in disbelief, were, at times, just me trying to make sense of things. I don't apologize for my emotions. I won't pretend I never got frustrated. But as I've reflected, I've realized this series isn't just about venting, it's about understanding. We all know someone we disagree with. Family, friends, people we've known our whole lives. Maybe we've argued with them, maybe we've stopped talking to them altogether. Maybe, like me, we're still trying to hold on. This series is about struggle. Not just what I believe, but why. And how I keep loving the people who see the world differently than I do. I have finally decided it was my turn to write a book. For as long as I can remember, I've loved reading. My mother always had a book in her hands, and my older sister was the same way. At around 11 years old, I picked up a novel and read it cover to cover. That sense of accomplishment pushed me to keep reading, and eventually it became a habit. It took me over 50 years to decide it was my turn to write something of my own. Maybe it was exhaustion from watching history repeat itself. Maybe it was the realization that I had something to say, or maybe it was just time. Whatever the reason, this series is my attempt to process everything, to reflect on where we are and how we got here. But more importantly, it's an attempt to answer the question, how do we find peace with the people in our lives who don't see the world the way we do? My name is Earl, and it's not just a name. It's not a name I would have chosen for myself. Names are funny things. We don't get to pick them, but they shape us in ways we don't fully understand. I was named after my father, who was named after his uncle, but my father never actually went by Earl. He used his middle name. That left me as the only one using it. If I'd had a choice, I would have gone with David. But names are just labels. It's what we do with them that matters. I never felt any less loved by either of them. I never felt any less loved by either of them because they both... Start that over again. I never felt any less loved by either of them because they put each other first. If there's one thing I know for certain about my parents, it's that they loved each other completely. Their marriage wasn't about grand romantic gestures or flashy declarations. It was built on something stronger, an unshakable commitment. I've been married twice. I'm single now. And having been through those experiences, I've come to believe that a relationship only works when both people make it their highest priority. One person's effort isn't enough. It takes two. My parents never told anyone that their children were their number one priority. But I never once felt unloved because of it. In fact, I felt safe because of it. Their devotion to each other created a foundation that made everything else work. That kind of commitment feeds itself. Each person gives strength to the other, like a battery that never runs out. But when only one person is giving, the current dies. The relationship drains and eventually collapses. Their love only ended because my father passed away. But even now, I believe that love still lingers, timeless, undiminished. It shaped their lives, and in many ways, it shaped mine. My mother is a strong person and a happy person. Like many of her generation, my mother was born during the Great Depression. Her father always had a job, but that didn't make him a good man. He was unfaithful, selfish, and kept money from his own family. He took every dime my mother and her brother earned delivering newspapers. He died when I was 9. To me, he was always kind. But as I got older, I learned the truth. The man my mother grew up with was not the grandfather I knew. Despite everything, my mother remained strong. She carried happiness with her, even when life didn't make it easy. That's something I've always admired about her. So looking ahead, this is only the beginning. In the episodes to come, I'll be diving into the events that shaped my beliefs, from the political absurdities of recent years to the deeply personal lessons that influenced how I see the world. But this isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about understanding. It's about finding a way to coexist with people we love, even when we fundamentally disagree. Next time, we tackle the topic that defined the last few years, COVID-19 and America's divide.